Hello all, Namaskar, greetings for the day. Uh, Hope you are doing good and my voice is audible. So basically welcome you to this today's session of Ayudha, and herein we will discuss today the criminal justice system reform. Just a minute. Yeah. So today we will discuss the criminal justice system reform, and basically again I will say this is not a very this is not a content system, rather content session. Rather, this is something wherein we will try to find out how we can brainstorm on the different topics and how we can find multiple dimensions out of it. So please just message if my voice is audible properly or not. Let us start. So basically, again, what I had written over there, criminal justice system reforms. This is a very important topics for UPSC and as well as for other civil services exam also, state civil services exam also. So the thing is that what exactly is there in it. So criminal justice system, if I will say that, for example, if I am telling you that anything that is related to criminal justice system, the three things must come to your mind. That the chore, police and the judge, the court. So these three reforms, like the police, like for example, if there is a crime, criminal justice system means there is a term called crime. If crime happens, then there are mostly three stakeholders. One is the criminal, next is the police who represents the society, the government also, and the third is the court, who is the neutral, who is without bias and who is neutral and who will decide that whether the offense that the criminal has done and is it valid and what amount of punishment that we should give to it. Now there is another word in this criminal justice system, that is justice. What exactly is justice then? If I will define it very simply, it is making you accountable for your works. That means you receive what you deserve for all the actions that you have done. For example, if I have committed a crime, if I have killed someone, if I have snatched a chain from someone, then I must get the punishment. And this is justice. So the victim also, she also must get justice. That her offender or his offender must also get the punishment. So the criminal justice system implies that we are dealing in the realm of crime where there are mostly three stakeholders: the police, the crime, the man who has committed the crime, and the court. So man who has committed the crime, he will be staying in the prison. So there are three reforms that is needed in criminal justice system. One is prison reforms, next is police reforms, and third is judicial reforms. So now we have got the conclusion that we will write in the answers of prison reform or judicial reform or police reform. Because if the question is asked on any of the reform, for example, if it is asked only on the police reform, at the end you must also write that simply doing the police reform will not bring the change. Rather, the reform is also needed in the other two limbs, that is the judicial system and the prison reforms, so that the holistic system can evolve and we will be able to do better justice. So this is something I will discuss. Now let us go to each of the limb. The number one limb is prison reforms. So let us go to prison reforms. I will just quote some of the facts so that you will know what are all the problems that are inherently there in the prisons now and what all needs to be rectified. For example, if I say, now let us brainstorm. If the word prison comes, what is the first thought that comes to you? You must have seen that in the prison there would be a lot of prisoners who would be in one room. There will be 10 to 15 prisoners or maybe 5 to 10 prisoners who will sharing the rooms. They don't have very hygienic facilities. They don't get very good food to eat. You would have seen that in the movies and all. They just throw the plate which contains two very hard chapatis and some pickle or something. So these are all the real problems in the prison. But what is the most important problem in the prison? This is the problem of under trial, because basically when you are writing the mains and when you are giving the interview, ordering of your points is very important. We can also do the pestle approach, that is the political, economical, social and all those approach. But here the most important thing that would come is under trials. You must be knowing what is under trial exactly. Let me give you an example. For example, someone has alleged that Durga has done a crime, that I attempted to kill that person, but he was consequently saved, and that he has gone to the police station and said that Durga has tried to kill me. The police does not know whether it is correct or wrong, but the first thing they might do is they will arrest me. They will keep me in the jail. And the court proceeding will go on, whereon there will be his lawyer who will be speaking, my lawyer who will be speaking. But during those times, my guilt is not proven yet. There are only allegations of my guilt that I have tried to kill that person. But the guilty has not been proven. So I am in under trial. So where my guilty has not been proven and I am still suffering in the jail and I am not getting a bail, or even if I get a bail, I don't have the money to pay the surety bond, because when the bail is given, you must have to pay a surety bond that you will not flee from this place, and there is some money which has to be given and all these things. So due to all these reasons, there are a lot of under trials. And this is a very startling fact that I will say. As per the records in May 2022, as per the NCRB records, 76% of the prisoners in Indian prisons are under trials. That means only merely 24% prisoners are there who have been convicted. That means whose charges have been proved. Rest 76% are under trial. That means their charges have not yet been proved. You never know whether they are the real criminals or not, and yet they are languishing in the jails. This is something that is very high in Indian jails, which if you will compare with other jails across all the world, you will feel that this number is very less. And if you will see again, if you will go delve deeper into this, out of this 76%, those under trials, out of the whole under trials, who are the 76% of all total inmates in prison, of all the under trials, around more than 70% are the ones who belong to lower social strata, and they are mostly comprising of Dalits, OBCs, and scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. What does this imply? This implies that they don't have the access, they don't have enough potential, they don't have enough capability to hire a good lawyer and get a bail for themselves, because they don't have the money to pay to the lawyer or to get the bail. This implies who suffers in the jail. If more than 70% are belonging to the lower social strata, this shows that the persons who are belonging to higher social strata and who should be in jail, they have all gone out of the jail just because they have got the opportunity and the capability to pay for the bail. This means that somewhere in the prison we find that a lot of people who are languishing are of lower social strata. This is number one. That 76% are under trial, which is against the dignity of human being. And let me remind you what exactly is India. In India, there are some fundamental rights that are given to all of its citizens. And when a person is in jail, mostly there are 4 fundamental rights that are violated. Let me tell you what are those 4 fundamental rights. One is the freedom of movement. The freedom of movement is not there. Freedom of occupation is not there. Freedom of dignity is not there. And the right to liberty is also not there. So these are 4 strata of fundamental rights that are not given to a prisoner. And in fact, there is also one legal right which is not given. That is what? The right to vote. So assume if I am under trial and if I have not committed any crime, but just because of the benefit of doubt, I am languishing in the jail, that means all of these rights have been violated of mine. So somewhere this is an issue, because at the end, India is a welfare state. And as India is a welfare state, it must also ensure that it lives up to the ideals of democracy. And what are the ideals of democracy which are mentioned in the preamble? What is that mentioned in the preamble? That equality, justice, liberty, fraternity and all those things. So some of them are violated. This is number 1 point. Next problem is the jail overcrowding. If you will see in most of, because you have to find the fact for yourself, just because I am telling you the concepts, and wherever I have fact I will refer and tell you. Overcrowding of prisons. What happens if you must have seen that there are many prisons where there are lot higher number of prisoners who are there in that area, more than the capacity. In fact, it is said that around the occupancy rate in prisons now is 118%. And what happens if the occupancy rate is 118%? Number 1, very less hygiene. There are sanitation problems. There are access to food and water problems. So these all things are also there. What is another problem of prison? The understaffing of the prison persons. It is said that 33% of the total prison officials are vacant now. This means if the prison officials are absent, then means the governance and the efficiency of the prisons are also very less. So this is another problem that is there. Now I will see that there is another problem, that is the mental health, the access to health and all those things. You must have seen that there are many cases wherein the prisoners die and their relatives complain that they were not given access to medical facilities. This is one aspect which is also there, because if the prison is overcrowded and you don't pay enough attention to the prison, this is bound to happen. There is another aspect to it, that is mental health. It is said that a lot of mental health issues are being happening over there, and around 50% more chances of suicides are there when a prisoner is cut off from the family and friends. That's why a lot of committees have recommended that please give a chance for the prisoners for the first week to talk with their families, so that these mental health issues are not there. Because assume I am a free roaming bird, and if I am put into prison, I don't know whether I have committed any offense or not, then what would be my mental health status? So this is something. Now assume that you yourself are a prisoner. Please think that if you have a child inside the prison, for example, if I was pregnant by the time I was arrested and I gave birth to a child in the prison, would he or she get good education? She will not get. Would he or she will get all the facilities, the dignity? That is not there. There is another issue with the prison. See, we are just opening up the dimensions. We are thinking how these things are happening. Assume that you are a prisoner and you are relieved from today. That the government said that under trial you have been this thing, that thing, and you are released from today. So you go to your society, you go to your area, and there the people will start discriminating you. They will say that here comes a person who has committed a crime. Even though you are saying that you are guilt free, yet the people will say that you are someone who has committed the crime. And there is a very bad social status that is attached with it. So are there any sufficient facilities for rehabilitation of prisoners or offenders once they are released from the jail? We find in Indian society there is no such thing. And we will see that there is a best practice that is happening in Singapore. That is the Yellow Ribbon Project. You will see, we will discuss that, wherein when the prisoners who are being released from the jails are getting a good chance for rehabilitation. So due to all these reasons, the prisons are said to be the recruitment center for the army of crime. Why? Because they are mistreated in the prison, they are treated like a subhuman in the prison, they are discriminated, and once they are released also they are again discriminated. So what will be the mental status of that person? Is there a chance for reformative justice? Because we are talking about the word reform, and reform means something, you are changing, you are making something bad into good. So in the prison I am facing all the bad thing, how will I become good? So here we are exploring the dimensions. You saw what are all the dimensions. I am again repeating for you. Number one, number of under trials. There are a lot of under trials. So if there are a lot of under trials, that means there will be overcrowding of the prisons, because you will keep them in the prisons. If there is overcrowding in the prisons, they will not get good hygiene, good food, good sanitation, and all those things. If they don't get good food, good sanitation, then they will not have good health. And if they don't have good health, you don't also have the facilities for good, all those things, good health facilities, and they will suffer from mental health issues, and they might do suicide. And there is another thing that I must say, there are a lot of sexual abuse that is happening in the prison. And this is something that is very frightening, because many don't say it outside, but there are a lot of sexual abuse that is happening in the prison. So this is also one thing, like we must do something so that we can prevent them. And one of the most important thing that is happening in the prison, due to its opaqueness and all those things, the custodial violence is happening. You must have heard of the custodial death, mostly of Jairaj and Vanix. That is one thing. But another thing, inside the prison also, a lot of prisoners fight between themselves, and there are a lot of death. And then the police also commits some torture, which is also against this, all those things. So you see, there are all these problems in the prison. That's why it becomes a recruitment center for the army of crime. And also it is said that it is university for grooming criminals. Why? Assume I am a good person. Someone is falsely given an allegation against me. I go to a prison. I am kept in the same cell where a gangster is there. I am influenced by him. The day I move out of the jail, I am discriminated by the society. And what I will do? I will join that criminal. So the very purpose you made the jail, you made it a recruitment center for the criminals. So these are all the issues that are there in the prison, and which we must solve. In fact, I will tell you some more data. Like nearly 18k children, nearly 18,000 children are living in the jail as their parents are living in the jail. This is something that is very difficult. And the Law Commission says in this 268th report that 60% of arrests are unnecessary. And you can assume, if 60% arrests are unnecessary, that are for minor crimes where you don't even know, then there will be overcrowding in the jails. So that is the reasons why we need the prison reforms. Now I will tell you one very good example, good line which you must put it in your answer. That is Nelson Mandela rules. Nelson Mandela rules is the popular name for UN standard for minimum rules for treatment of prisoners. Because you must have been knowing that Nelson Mandela has spent a lot of his life in the prison. That's why to give due respect to him, there is Nelson Mandela rule and you should write it. Now let us find the solutions to it. And there are many committees which have recommended a lot of things. And in these questions like prison reforms, it is mandatory that you must mention some of the committees. There is Krishna Iyer committee, there are Justice Mullah committee and Justice Amitav Roy committees. I will just read out them for you so that it will be easy for you to remember. In fact, before that I will give you one statistics, that is, in general, under trials spend 3 months to 5 years in jail before getting bail. And this is a very good case study that you can write in your exam. There is a person called Machan Lalung in Assam who spent 54 years in prison for an offence whose maximum jail sentence is 10 years. If that person would have been convicted, for example, he has committed a theft. If he would have been convicted, he must have been released after 10 years. But just because his court case was pending and he did not have enough resources to get a bail for himself, he had to spend a stunning 54 years. Can you imagine the plight of the person? His whole life is gone. That's why it is very necessary for the prison reforms to be undertaken now. And that is why it is one of the most important things that must be undertaken at the earliest. Now let us discuss what are all the things that you can do. Let us discuss, there are many other things, like if you want to discuss the pestle approach, you can do that also. What is pestle? P, political. Yes, you can see the prisons don't get enough attention because they are not vote banks. They don't have any such bigger rights to vote. If they would have been vote banks, then definitely they would have got the good treatment. As they are not vote banks, no one pays any attention to them. Economy, E for economy. Yes, economical. The funds are not there. A proper funding is not done to the prisons to modernize the prison to digitize the prison system. And because of which there are certain issues. This is the pestle. Then S, social, we have discussed that once they are released, they are socially discriminated. So there is a need for rehabilitative approach. T, what is technological? You can say that due to technological absence, we don't keep a track of what is the punishment of the prisoner, and they go on to spend 54 years in prison for an offence that is the maximum punishment is 10 years. So these are all those things. There are legal loopholes. Are there any legal loopholes? Yes, there are legal loopholes because prison is a state subject. The Ministry of Home Affairs regularly sends some model guidelines to maintain the prisons. However, prison is a state subject, and it mostly follows the archaic laws like the Police Act of 1860s, 61s and all those things, because at those point of time the prisons were meant for to chain the freedom fighters, and they were very strict in their working. So we are still following that. Although India is a champion of democracy, we are still following that. So there are needs to reform them. So what we can do to reform them? So the way out is Justice Mullah Commission. I am telling you, Justice Mullah Commission. If possible, please note it down. They have said that there must be a national policy on prisons and national commission on prisons. What they will do, that they will help you in framing proper prison rules and all those things, and they will monitor the prison status and all those things. There is another thing to prison, that is what you can do. You can involve those persons who are there inside the prison. You can use them for community service. And you can identify the level of the prisoners, the level of risk from the prisoners, and can you use them for community service. If they can be used for community service, it is a win-win condition for all. Just as Krishna Iyer committee said that you must employ women employees so that they can know the problems of women persons in the jail. And in fact, I must say, only around 4 to 5% of the prisoners are women. So Justice Iyer says, Krishna Iyer Commission says that the special women recruitees must be done so that they will take care of the women prisoners. What Justice Amitav Roy Commission has said, he said that there must be special fast track courts so that the petty offences can be proved very immediately. Because if there is a minor theft case, there is no need to keep that person for 10-15 years, which can be solved by minor fines or pecuniary measures. Then he says that lawyer to prisoner ratio must be maintained, that is at least one lawyer for 30 prisoners. Because if there are no good lawyer, no lawyer, how will you file your bail petition? So this is something. And there is one thing, to reduce the mental trauma, they must have phone call with their family and all those things. And the prison system must be modernized. These are some things. And in fact, there is one thing that you can use in most of your answers. You can say that Indian prison services must be formed, like an all India service, like Indian prison services must be formed which will take care of all the prison related issues, prison management issues, that will help in making the prisons reforms very effective. So these are all the prison reforms that is needed. Now let us discuss some case studies. And there is one more thing that you can do, that is open jail or semi-open jail. Wherein in Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh there are some open jails. That means that you will allow the prisoners to go out of the jail, do the work, and again return to the prison. You will do that only after assessing the risk of that prisoner. So now there are some case studies that we can discuss. First thing that we best practices, that is the yellow ribbon practice in Singapore, where there is the after releasing from the prison, there are some rehabilitation done for the prisoners. Number 2, unified prison system was recommended by NALSA in Delhi's Tihar jail. This is something that must be implemented so that there is very fast processing and we keep a track of the person, that a person whose maximum punishment is 10 years should not spend for 54 years in the jail. Machan Lalung thing that I was telling. And there is another Norway where the 30% of prison is kept open. That means they can go out and come. These are some of the case studies that you can use to write your answers. And this is something that I wanted to discuss. And here what all DPSPs you can use or fundamental rights. The number 1 fundamental right, Article 21 is violated. When for an offence of very less amount you are keeping the person unlimited. Number 2, is there any DPSP? Yes, there is a DPSP, that is Article 39A, which says that the free legal aid must be provided for the prisoners. Just because the legal aid provided to the prisoners is not good, they are not getting bail. If you will improve the legal aid provided to them, then they will definitely get bail. So these are something that is there. Is there any SDG that we can use over here? Definitely yes, there is an SDG, that is SDG 16, which says peace, justice and stronger institutions. Why? Because here when you are violating the prison norms, what you are doing, you are indirectly affecting the justice. So that's why this is all related to prison reforms. I feel it is very clear with you, and these are all the brainstorming things. For example, you identified the problems. Imagine that you are a prisoner, what all problems you face. There are some other problems, that the overcrowding and all those things. You compile them and you find the solutions to them. Remember some of the committees. Try to link it with fundamental rights and fundamental DPSPs. And it is a violation of Universal Declaration of Human Rights as well. So something like that. And you make an answer. And at the end I have said, conclude it by saying that only prison reforms will not help. We need to do simultaneously police and judicial system reform, so that we will get the effect that we want. I feel it is clear. Is it clear? Can someone please say yes? I feel it is clear. Now we will deal with police reform. Something. I feel it must be clear. Yes. So yes, infrastructure, facilities and governance, that is there, because again this is something that you must realize also, because the facilities like all those things, like good food, good hygiene and all those things, and infrastructure, the very less number of jails, in fact the jails have been reduced, the number of jails have been reduced. So if you are increasing the prisoners, you must also increase that the overcrowding of the jails must not happen. And to reduce the overcrowding of the jails, either you have to increase the number of prisons or allow the under trials to release faster. And this will only happen when you increase the judicial thing, because there is a judicial pendency. If I'll tell you a data that as per the report, one of the report, it will take 324 years for the current pendency of the judicial system to be cleared. Can you imagine 324 years? So much cases are piled. So this is something that is there. These are something, there are bitter truths that we don't want to accept, but we will only know once we are into the jail for some petty case, and we will be struck over there for 10 to 12 years. So this is something that we need prison reforms. Now let us go to the next reform, that is the police reform. Because police reform has been a very important thing, and why it is important, because without police reforms, prison reforms can't happen. So now for police, I'll ask you, what are all the problems that you feel for police? We day to day, every day we see police and we know. If you will ask me, what do you feel the problems about police? Number one thing I feel that many times that they don't have the good weapons. In fact, you can use that in prison as well, because in prison reform you need policemen with strong weapons, so that jailbreaking will not happen. But they are keeping a lathi. What will happen with the lathi? So weapon is one of the problem. Another problem, we know that the police is highly understaffed. Although we feel that there are a lot of police, but you will see that the current amount of police is very less as per the recommended UN standards. The UN says per lakh population there must be 222 policemen that should be there, but in India we have only 137 police personnel per 1 lakh population, and we have sanctioned 181, but the current rate is only 137, which is way below 222 number of 222 police per 1 lakh population. So number 1 point we have got that the police is highly understaffed. Number 2 point we got, they don't have the up-to-date modern weaponry system. Now there is another thing that will say, what do you think about the police? Are they very up-to-date with the technology? The answer is no. They can't deal with most of the police. They can't deal with most of the things which requires very higher technical knowledge. For example, you must have been anyone of whom a mobile has been stolen. He must be knowing all those things, or a failed money transaction, means misplaced money transaction. You will know. If you go to police station, they will say that we don't accept this complaints over here. You go to the cyber crime branch or something like that. So they are not very much adapt into the technologies. The digitization is not happening. The transparency and the accountability is not there, and that is the reason why they are not very adapt to the growing level of crimes. Because nowadays there are much more things that is going on. That is the crime levels. The crime is going in a different manner now. Earlier there were physical crimes. Now there are mostly financial crimes, and there are cyber crimes. The virtual molesting is happening. So this is something, and our policemen are mostly not adapt to that. In fact, there is no issue with them. The problem is that they are not trained properly. So this is something. Someone has wrote they lack physical fitness. Mostly during the later stage, many times we see all those images. But however, that is something there. Yes, there is another thing someone has wrote, that is the corruption and bribe. Yes, definitely you can say this is a governance issue. The corruption and bribe, all those things are happening, and we know not all are there. There are many good police officers, but this is also one of the issues. And I will ask you, why do corruption and bribe happen? And you will get the answer, because they are paid very less for the amount of work that they do. Assume during the COVID period, who were the frontline workers? I have seen policemen who are standing all over the day in the Delhi's hot climate and checking whether you have the COVID pass or not. And you must be knowing that there is a proportion of the people who have died highest in very high number in COVID, they are the doctors and the policemen, because they were the frontline workers. And see the amount of work they are doing, and they are paid very less, if you will see. And in fact, I will see there is another issue, that is the constabulary driven issue. 86% of the police forces are constables, and they will get only one single promotion during the whole lifetime, that they will be promoted to head constable. They cannot be SI or ASI. They are very rare. And when you know that there is no incentive to work, there is no good returns to that, what they will do? That's why mostly they go into corruption. So this is one thing, they are paid very less. Now there is another issue, what all problems are happening in police again. For example, we have seen that a bike has been stolen. Today only I was discussing with a person whose bike has been stolen. Despite he giving different things that this thing is stolen, this thing is there, this is my proof and all, the police could not investigate. So there are some issues with respect to investigation. See, we are doing a life cycle approach, because we assumed what all things are there with the police that we have seen. And when you are going and telling to the police station, dear police, my bike has been stolen, kindly investigate, and they are saying we don't have enough tools to investigate. Why? They are mostly with a lathi. Nowadays CCTVs are included, but they don't have very high tracking system. So this is something where technology is one step backward in the current police system. There are very high level police stations in Delhi and Mumbai, no doubt, but I am talking about the rest of the India. So here we find there is another issue. Now there is another issue, that is political interference. That is one thing, that bribe and corruption you say, mostly that is political interference. You will be asked to suppress a case, you will be asked to file a false case. So these all things are there. This is something. And what all I am just remembering, yes, the lack of weaponry also. I said the weapon is very outdated and insufficient, that is up to 70% as per the report by CAG. And there are lack of accountability. This is something that is very important. I'll take your attention to extrajudicial killing and custodial violence. I have told the example of Benix and Jacker, and in fact there are many other persons. I remember a person whose hand was mostly bitten and they had to amputate it. And there is mostly no accountability. In fact, I'll say I have something that due to all those things, the acquittal out of many cases of custodial violence, only a minuscule percentage of police are getting convicted, rest are all acquitted. They will say like we have many examples where there are extrajudicial killings, there are encounters, and this is something that is not good because judiciary is there, we will take the call, but here the police is playing the role of judiciary. This is something that is against the principles of rule of law, because when we are terming about police, the first thing that comes to our mind, it is they are the upholders of law, they are the saviors of the society, and until unless the court has proven the guilt, how can you kill someone? But yes, there are some things, that there are some freedom that have given to them. If the person is very high on killing you, then you can do that out of your self this thing. And there is another thing that I will say, there are high human rights violations. You have seen the police would be lathi charging and all those things. Why? Because it is said that only 12% of police persons, as per some one of the report, only receive human rights training, rest don't receive. How do you expect that they will know the human resource and all those things? And there is another thing, that is, you must be aware that we have the lot of police forces, and you know the 94% of the police expenditure on training that is done, of the 100, 94% is done only on the IPS officers. Only the minuscule 6% is done on the inspectors, SIs, constables and all those things. So how do you make them variable? There is a very skewed pattern of these things, and there is also a prevailing mistrust between the public and police, because police are the saviors. In fact, in your family, you must have been known that many times father is said to be the savior, and when you face any problem, you directly go to your father and approach. But in our scenario, we fear to go to police. And in fact, as there was a study by CSDS which said that less than 25% Indians trust police. This is something that is very alarming. And 54% people trust the army, but less than 25% people trust the police. This is something that is not good for the society. So these all things are there which are issues. And there is another thing, the police. Is the police only for maintaining law and order and all those things? No. You employ them to do traffic. When the minister comes, they have to do all these things. When there is some encroachment removal, you send them to them. So how they will do the investigation? When they will do the investigation? In fact, you must be knowing, I will tell you one thing, that when you go to the police station, generally many times the police officers, they don't file the FIR. You know why they don't file? Because if a FIR is filed, they have to do the whole of the investigation, and they can't close it like that. And already they are overburdened. There are a lot of FIRs that are pending. There are a lot of things that are pending they cannot do. How they will deal with one more FIR? So until unless you force them very high, or it is very high crime, or without any, if there is very high pressure, then only they will report it. So that is the thing. And NHRC said that 60% arrests are unnecessary. 75% human rights violation cases are against police. So this is something that is there with respect to the police thing. Now we will go to the reform. What all reforms that are needed in police and all those things. So basically here also there are some committees. The most important one is the Prakash Singh judgment, that is by the Supreme Court, wherein they have said very beautiful things and which we need to remember. And there are other judgments like the Ribeiro Committee, Mallimath Committee, Soli Sorabji Committee. I would ask you to see some of their recommendations, but let us discuss the Prakash Singh judgment, and that is very important. Why? It says that the political intervention is very high in the police system. That's why the Prakash Singh judgment said that the DGP should have minimum of 2 years of service. Means he must be there in the position for 2 years. Then there are other recommendation systems that you must form a police establishment board that will decide on the transfer and postings of the police officers. Because when you don't have the fear of getting transferred, then only you can do your duty better. It is the same reason why we have the security of tenure for a lot of constitutional bodies like the Election Commission, like the Vigilance Commission also, that is not constitutional, but you can see there are very strict procedures, like for the judges of the Supreme Court, for the persons of UPSC. So until unless you are very much secure about your position, you can do your duty properly. So these are some of the judgments. And now with respect to other things like weaponry thing, you must upgrade it. Like they are understaffed, you must do more staffing. And you can say that in fact here you can include the community policing. What I have discussed in DVA one day, some few days back, you can add that there is the Mira Pebo, what they say, and Mira Pebi and the Jan Maitri Suraksha, and there is Friends of Police of Tamil Nadu. There are all the best practices. When you don't have the police officers, you can take some volunteers. In fact, in Odisha, there is a very beautiful scheme that they say where they employ the students, mostly students, as traffic volunteers, and they pay some amount for hours on hours basis. This is a very beautiful way of enhancing the what you will say of enhancing the payment or enhancing the economic stability of the students, and at the same time they are also getting an experience and certificate from the government itself that they have contributed to the society, and at the same time you are also fulfilling your needs with the very limited resources. This is a win-win situation. So all these things are there, and wherein they have said that Model Police Act will be there. The Police Act of 1861 should be reformed because that is a colonial legacy, and the police must be insulated from the political and bureaucratic interference. And there is one major recommendation that is mostly said by all, that please separate the investigative wing of the police from the other wing. There must be one separate wing which will do only investigation. That will not be into this encroachment removal, disaster management, traffic. Ministers will come, they will handle. No, this all will be there for another one. Make a special wing for investigation. And try using innovative methods of investigation like the DNA profiling and all those things. Because once your investigation is very fast, then your conviction rate will automatically increase. And if you give good amount of evidence for conviction, then the judicial pendency will also remove. So this is how you see the prison, the police and the judicial reforms are interlinked. They are one single chain and you cannot separate them. So that's why this is all that is needed with respect to the police reforms. You can type in and you can find rather many other suggestions. Yes, proper training facilities, that is also needed, because we have discussed that they are not trained very properly with respect to the use of technology and with respect to the physical thing also. Like the modern way of warfare, the modern way of new threats that is coming, the cyber insecurity, the cyber threats and all those things, like the frauds, economic frauds that is happening. We have to train them. So these are all the things. In fact, you will find your own ways. That's what we have discussed. All the problems, for each problem there is each solution. And like for example, they said that 94% of training expense is only on the IPS. You must say we have to rationalize the training expense so that we will upgrade the whole of the police system. IPS is only one cog of the wheel. It is not the whole wheel. Unless, because if you have played the game of chess, you must have realized that a pawn has similar value just like to the horse or anyone else. So you cannot sacrifice the pawn for someone else. So this is the thing. We must remember that everyone has an integral part to play, and we must not think that the police officers and all those, they are all corrupt and they are all doing dhandlebaji and all those things. They are mostly overburdened. They are doing something that is beyond their capacity because they are not trained well. How you expect them to take proper decisions and with respect to this changing things? So that is something kind of weeding out officers, those who have corrupted or any other thing. It's also the smug attitude. Yes, you can do all those things, but again, there is a proof of burden. How will you prove them? If you have sufficient evidence, nowadays the government is also very keen on doing that. They are giving compulsory retirement. If you have enough evidence about the corruption of an officer, they weed them out. Compulsory compulsory retirement is there, and it is mostly something that is at the discretion in the hands of the state and central government, and they are doing it. So that is not an issue, but we have to address the systemic issues, the infrastructure part. They don't have weapons. The government must do expenditure so that weapons are there. They don't have training facilities. Government must do up-to-date training facilities, just like the IPS ones have. Please do similar training for the state level PS officers, in fact for the SI and inspectors. You must be knowing a constable in an area has all the information about all these things. And another issue of the police thing is that there is a lack of coordination. You must have known that during the Mumbai attacks, it is alleged that we have some prior intelligence information, but due to lack of coordination, we failed. So there is a lack of coordination also. So we must do that. So there are some CCTNS thing and all those things. You have to jot down them and write them in your answers, because government is also trying to do all those things. A separate police university proposal has come for it, definitely. And in fact, it is one of the recommendations. In fact, if I am not wrong, in the Prakash Singh judgment as well, and mostly and other judgment also. So in committee, various committees have recommended, yes, police university is recommended, because you see, police is a very different wing. The civil services are one part and the police is very different, because here you are mostly public facing and there is not a single issue where the police cannot be there. For example, if we will discuss the duties of an IAS and IPS officer, it is mostly seen that wherever an IAS is there, an IPS is accompanying him. And there are many other similar instances where an IPS is only there and the IAS is not accompanying. For example, for any issue like encroachment, removal, diet, management, everything, the IAS will always be accompanied with an IPS. But there are other issues like the accident, like the fire, like all those things, where the IAS might not be there, but the IPS would always be there. So it requires a very different set of training. And if you will compromise on the training of the IPS and in fact of the police, in fact, then we are going to get ourselves into the trouble. So this is one of the things. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to say that brainstorm, please think what a policeman is facing, because you are giving them with lathi. How will they deal with the policeman with the gun? So if you will see it very minutely, and in fact there is one more thing I will say. The lack of police vehicles. The police vehicles are very outdated. This is also one of the recommendations, and you must take it very seriously. Nowadays, people are riding with all those bikes and high-end bikes, and they are reaching the speed of 100 to 150 km per hour within some seconds. And we have a police van that is around 10 to 12 years old. And how do you expect that they will go and catch that person? So these all things are there. There are infrastructural issues, there are investigative issues, there are all other issues, and we need to spend heavily on them. And if you don't spend heavily on them, in fact, inculcate best practices from other countries and other states also, like US is very good policing system. They have very high autonomy with the police, and you can do that. So these are something that I wanted to say. And yes, there is one more thing. There is a smart approach given by the Prime Minister. S for something, M for something, S for, if I am not wrong, smart and something, M for mobile and something, A for active, R for reliable, T for tech savvy and something. Please note that smart approach of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, who has given that for the police, and that will help you a lot. This is all that I wanted to discuss about police reforms. I hope you have a very clear idea about police reforms, because this is not again a content session. I just wanted to give you an idea so that when you read some other article, you can relate with that. So I feel that is clear about you. If it is clear, please say, then we will move on to the last part, that is the judicial reforms, and that is a very small thing. In fact, you know it all. I'll just tell it in very short steps so that we'll complete the criminal justice system. Is it all clear? Done. Yeah. Now let us go to judicial reforms. Now one thing I'll ask you, when I say the judiciary, what word comes to you for the first time? What do you think? What are the problems with judiciary? The line that comes to me in my mind is the dialogue from the movie Damini, if I am not wrong. Tariq pe Tariq. Tariq pe Tariq is the most common problem of judiciary. You must not be having any problem remembering that, and you must not forgetting that this is the most important problem of the judiciary. This is the pendency. Why do we get Tariq pe Tariq? Because of there are some issues, that thing, this thing, and which is leading to pendency of the cases, which is a very disastrous thing. In fact, I was seeing that in January 2020, there are 3.7 crore cases that were pending. In January 2021, it was 4.2 crore, and in July 2021, it is 4.5 crore. In fact, now it is around 4.7 crore cases that are pending. And I said, as per a report, it will take around 324 years. Mind my words, 324 years. That was in 2017. It is said that at those point of time, it would have taken 324 years to remove this pendency. And it takes almost more than 20 years to solve a civil case. So assume what is the system of judiciary. So that's why this is Tariq pe Tariq, or the judicial pendency, is the most important problem of judiciary. And this is something that I will ask you, why there is judicial pendency. Number one reason, the investigative agencies are not doing the investigation properly. In fact, they don't have the capability to do that, the police system. This is one of the problems. Then there are many times there are the lack of evidences and all those things. Due to all these reasons, there are some judicial pendencies. And there is another reason that we'll say, the lack of judges. The judge ratio is very less. In fact, I will quote the numbers. Law Commission says that there must be 50 judges per million population. In USA, there are 107 judges per million population. In Canada, they have 75 judges per 1 million population. And what we have only 20 judges for 1 million population. And Indians are famous for breaking the law. So you must be aware that where all the problem is. We have very less amount of judges. And why we have less amount of judges? Because of the recruitment procedures. Because of all those delays. Some will go to the collegium system, that there is issue with the collegium system in Supreme Court. And I will say you very speculating figure again, that out of all the pendencies, around 87%, 87.5% of pendencies are in the subordinate courts, that are in the district level and lower courts. There are only 12%, 12.3% cases which are pending in High Court, and less than around 0.2% cases are pending in the Supreme Court. So you must be aware where we need to do the more work. It is in the subordinate courts where we need to do more work. So how will you do all this work? We will decide that later. Now we will go to, there are less number of judges who are recruited. But are there any vacancy? Yes, there are vacancy. In High Courts, around 40% vacancies are there. In fact, 40% out of around 1080 seats that are sanctioned, only 600 or 660 or 650 seats are occupied. Rest 400 are mostly empty. This is the data of around 2021. I feel the situation would be very nearly same now also. So there is vacancy. So this is something that is there. What is another issue with the Supreme Courts? There is Uncle Judge syndrome. What is Uncle Judge syndrome? That this is something that Justice R.M. Lodha, you must be knowing that Rajendra Mal Lodha, R.M. Lodha, who was the former Chief Justice of India, he said that one out of three judges or who belongs to this legal family is the relative of any judge. Judge means one out of the three persons who is in this legal family is the relative of a judge. He might be advocate, he might be a solicitor general, he might be the attorney general, he might be advocate general, he might be a bar member. Most of them are related with the judges. And assume if the person who is practicing in front of you, you are a judge, and your brother-in-law is the advocate and he is speaking that, my lord, this person is the right person and the other one is wrong. What will you do? So there is a case of favoritism and nepotism. Use of these words are important. The favoritism and nepotism is alleged in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court and all other judges. And there is another thing that is said, that the court is one of the most opaque system, because many times you can't criticize them. If you criticize, there is a threat of contempt. Although it is said truth is your most important weapon, but many times we fear just because of the contempt cases. And there are other issues also, like the recruitments are also very closed rooms and all those things. So these all issues are there. In fact, there are around 1 lakh contempt cases are pending in the court. And another thing, that is Gram Nyayalaya Act was formed, which expects around 5k filling, but has in reality only 208 Gram Nyayalayas are there. So this is something, the issues are there. There is another issue, how much are we spending on the judicial infrastructure? You will be surprised to know that only 0.09% of GDP is spent on judicial infrastructure, which is very high in other countries. What is the status of digitization in judiciary? They are adopting now. Because digitization and automatic filling of the cases and all those things are very important in judiciary. We are failing in all those things. Now another thing, how much amount of day that the judiciary is working. The Supreme Court is working on an average for 188 days per year, whereas the mandated, the Apex Code rules specify that they must work for 225 days minimum per year. But they are working for 188 days only. Definitely they are going to, there will be pendency of court, because they are not working for around more than 30-40 days. So this is one of the issue. And another, I will say, for the free legal aid, there is one thing, because why the pendency of cases we say? Because the people are kept under trial and they don't have money to get the bail and all those things. So who will help all those poor people in the bail? It is the state, because why? We have Article 39A, free and legal aid. But do you know how much India is spending on that? Australia spends around per capita spending is $17 per capita on free legal aid. Argentina spends $17 per capita for free legal aid. Australia spends around $23 per capita for free legal aid, and India spends around only $0.008 USD per capita on free legal aid. You may say that the population is higher and all those things, but the number is very less, 0.008. So these are some of the issues, and you must be knowing that judicial delay is causing estimated loss of around 1.5% of GDP, because many times there are a lot of things that are happening, because many times the cases are mostly of the commerce and all those things. So now you must be knowing that if a case is pending, if there are a number of under trials and their case is pending, What you are violating? You are violating their dignity to life, which is against the fundamental right that is accrued to them via what they say, Article 21. So this is something, those are the issues. So if I'll summarize for you, what are all the judicial issues? In fact, you can also say political interference is also there. In fact, it is mostly in the lower courts because they are all known to each other and that is there. So now let us see. Number 1, Tariq pe Tariq, that is the pendency. Number 2, the judges, the nepotism and all those things. Number 3, the judicial infrastructure, that is also there, that is an issue. Number 4, the free legal aid issue is there. All those things. Number 5, the very less number of judges. This is a very major concern and that must be addressed. The vacancies and all those things. And the political interference is there. The less amount of funding is there because for the infrastructure and all those things. And in fact, who will guard the guards? Who will say that this judge is not doing good because there is a threat of contempt on me? How I will say? So these are all the places where we need judicial reform. And judicial reform, if we will do judicial reform, then we can ensure dignity for every Indian who is living over here. So how do we do that? For that, Niti Aayog in its report for India at the rate 75, they have specified some of the very beautiful things. In fact, I'll say here SDG 16 can be used, which is peace, justice and strong institutions. And I'm reading out some of those judicial reforms recommended by Niti Aayog at the India at the rate 75 document, and which says that for example, today only in DVA, a daily value addition, the PDF that I upload in the Telegram group every day, today only I have said in the best practice that Supreme Court in 2015-16 made a special tax bench which reduced the pendency of cases, which is very important because there are two reasons for that. Why? Special tax bench has economic connotations, because the more you delay, the more loss you have, because the rupee is also changing, the value of rupee. Number one thing. And number two, we have to reduce the pendency. If we can form similar special tax benches or any other benches for the economic regions, for the civil regions, then we can reduce the pendency. What other way we can try? Can we try alternative dispute resolution mechanisms like arbitration, like mediation, like conciliation? This is something that we must explore because we have passed the arbitration rules, in fact in 2021 or 2020 if I am not wrong. And India wants to establish itself. Judges article. Yes. If you have read the article by by Vivek Debraji, there are some recommendations that you can say. Now, how do you cut off the uncle judge syndrome? You can do by making the recruitment of judges process very transparent and very accountable. How do you do that? Can you remember Article 312? All India Judicial Services. That is all India services. We can frame all India Judicial Services. But the recruitment would be very precise and you can give it to UPSC to do that. And UPSC has a very flawless record in maintaining its integrity and not going down to corruption. So we can say that the recruitment can be done by all India services, like all India Judicial Service. See, we have discussed another all India service. What? Prison services. Here I am telling what all India Judicial Services, Article 312. So you can do that. This will help in recovering all those uncle judge syndrome. Infrastructure, yes, we have to spend. Technological innovation, yes, we have to do. Special benches, yes, we have to do. In fact, there is one issue that is there with Supreme Court also, because Supreme Court is situated in Delhi. There are no benches here and there. Assume for a person who is going from Kerala and who is very poor, how will he present himself in the Supreme Court? Because for staying in Delhi, he needs a lot of money. So there is a need for some benches of Supreme Court in other parts of India, because Delhi is neither in the center of India nor very nearer to the southern parts. The cost is very high going from that. So this is something, those all things are required. And in fact, proper training and skilling of the judges are also required, especially at the lower levels. They must learn the vernacular languages, because that's the language in which the people communicate. So these all things are there. And what all issues we have discussed again, recruitment is there, uncle judge syndrome, this thing. And just a minute, I'm just checking. And pending cases and judicial infrastructure. Yes, mostly we have to do all these things. And if we do all those things, special judges, and you can form special tribunals for different issues, that will also help with all those things. There is merging and rationalizing of tribunals, that is also told by Niti Aayog report. There are training modules, e-training modules that can be done. And they have said in introduce an administrative cadre in judicial system to streamline process. because they will deal with all the listing and all those procedures that will help in listing of the cases in front of the judges, which will help in reducing the backlog. And there is one more thing that they say, that please use the technology like video conferencing wherever there is an issue, like taking the prisoner from here to there. It incurs a lot of cost. So please use the technologies of video conferencing, where people sitting in the remote corner of Kerala can also present himself in other courts and all those things. So these are all the judicial systems that is required. Now let us discuss some best practices that I wanted to say. Virtual e-court in Delhi, they have reduced pendency. There is a special provision in Denmark. Please note it down. There is a special provision in Denmark where there is a special court in which you can complain against the judges. And this is very important when you don't want to face the contempt of court cases. Who will guard the guards? So this Denmark case, if you write it in best practice, you will definitely get some 8.5 extra. That's for sure. Because this is something that is very unique and very this thing. And we have discussed, Supreme Court also did special bench for taxation. There are also, as per 13th Financial Commission, they have said that professional court managers should be appointed to increase the efficiency. So these all things are there, that is there for the judges and the judicial reforms. So if we will do all these three reforms, that the judicial, prison and police, then definitely we will do very good in ensuring that the criminal justice system is working very fine and properly. So now you know how do you answer a question. So for everything and anything and everything, please try to think what all can be done. Digital divide, yes, digital divide is very important. The large mass of the people who are living in the rural areas, how will they access it? The online court proceedings. So if you are trying to digitize the things, if you are trying to do online court proceedings, it is very important that you teach the mass how to use the online things. And in fact, I will tell you one more thing, that hiring a lawyer for any court case is very expensive task. So there is something that also needs to be done over there. From where I get this data? See, this data I have to collect it from lot of sources. There is not one area where you can collect. So this is something that you have to work on. In fact, I am trying to reduce the work for you by the DVS every day. But at the end, I am just trying to show you how to fish. So it is you who have to fish it more and more and more, so that you will get more data and all those things. And you have to use it very relevantly in all those cases. So that's all what I wanted to discuss. And this is something, justice must prevail. And to justice to prevail, we must do reforms in all the areas which are relevant. So that's all what I wanted to discuss. And if there is anything else, you can please say, or we can end the session over here. It's almost 1 hour. And we have discussed the whole of the criminal justice system. Again, I will say, there might be many points which I might not have told. You will find it in various articles. So my point over here was to make this topic very clear to you, so that if you read any article, you will be able to understand it. To put it in an analogy, I was trying to tell how to fish. So you can say that I have told you how to fish rohu or something. But tomorrow if you find a golden fish, you must be happy. You should not say that I have not told you that there is a golden fish also. I want you to tell you how to fish, so that you will be able to get all the fishes that are there in the pond and make the best fish curry. Pardon me if you are a vegetarian. That's all what I wanted to say. And if there is anything else, please you can say, or within a minute I will close the session. So this is something there. Yes, I am trying to remember if there is anything that I can add to it. But more or less I have done what I wanted to do. So that's it. So I feel there are no more issues, and I was very clear with what I was trying to say. So shall I end the session? Shall I end? Hello? Answer writing speed. Yes. Sankadip. See, again I will tell you, there is a very beautiful concept. If you can understand it, you will do very good. If you have speed with answer writing, if you have issue with answer writing speed, there might there might be two issues. Number one, I want every one of you to listen, because this is very important. If you are facing an issue with answer writing, that you are very slow with answer writing, there might be two things. Number one, either your speed is very slow. Number two, either you are thinking very slow. In UPSC, for writing 2 pages, you will get around 7 minutes. I will ask, as Sankadip has asked me the question, I will ask Sankadip, please write 2 pages that my name is Sankadip. Cover it 2 pages, write full 2 pages covering each and every space, and check how much time you are taking. If you are taking more than 7 minutes, then there is a serious issue with your handwriting speed. But if you are writing in 3 to 4 minutes and you are not taking even 7 minutes, then you are very well able to complete 2 pages in 7 minutes. But where you are facing the issue, you are facing the issue with thinking. So if you face the issue with thinking, regular brainstorming is the only way out. Practicing more and more is the only way out. There is no other way out. So please try to find out where you are lacking. Is it the handwriting speed or is it the thinking speed? If it is the handwriting speed, then you have to practice it. If you have the thinking speed, then also you have to practice it. So that's it. Is there any more issue? Yes, we will have regular sessions. That's fine. I have also decided we will have a lot more sessions on many topics, so that there might be a minimum hand holding if whatever I can do. So that's it. So you don't face any issue while you go to the exam hall, and we will the name of the session, that is Ayudha. You are very well ready with your weapon to face any type of question on the exam hall. Just don't shut your mind. If you open up your mind, you will find answers everywhere. For example, even if you would not have known what is prison reforms, just think what might be the thing. The word is reform. You want to reform the prison. What you will change in the prison? Write everything and anything. Install CCTV so that there will be no jailbreaking, so that there will be no sexual abuse inside the prison cell. Something like that. And that's it. Yes. Concept I am lacking, answer. See, for concept, if you are lacking, then there is you have to read more and more and try to see some lectures, try to find some way out, because that is the only way out. That's the only way out, because lacking in concept, nothing can be done unless you are very clear with the concept. And what I feel nowadays, UPSC rewards those persons in the mains who are very clear with the concepts, and the questions are also on similar lines. So that's it. Yeah, I feel mostly we are done with it. So thanks a lot. Thank you for being here, and namaskar. We will meet again tomorrow at this point of time, and we will discuss something new. Namaskar. Last thing, don't doubt yourself. You are a beautiful creature of the planet. You can do a lot of things. You are an infinite position you have. Please don't doubt yourself. You can do everything and anything. That's all. Namaskar. Bye bye.